from Portland, Maine, it's a special edition of the 6 o'clock news. My name is Paula Ricecap.
And my name is Stormy Weathers. Tonight on the news, we're talking climate change.
Yes, climate change. It's everywhere. The science of it all is a hot topic in schools, communities, and politics. But the question no one seems to be asking is, how is climate change going to affect people? We have the answers for you here tonight.
Bangladesh, a country in Southeast Asia, is one of the countries most at risk to feel the impacts of climate change. Due to its low elevation, it is a perfect target for many natural disasters, including hurricanes, erosion, droughts, and flooding. These events are expected to displace millions of people.
The likely solution is to send these people to less populated areas. A large concern with this is the tension and conflict that may arise when increasing populations are competing for decreasing resources. In April of 2015, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees published the Guidance on Protecting People from Disasters and Environmental Change through Planned Relocation, giving guidelines for the relocation of climate change refugees.
The plan is meant to prevent these conflicts of any civil, political, economic, social, and cultural impacts through mitigation. They also provide an outline of how to provide a high quality of living for these refugees, including providing safe shelter, suitable livelihoods, transportation, and basic infrastructure and services such as health and education.
And now, over to Gale Forcewinds with the weather.
When it comes to the weather, many things can happen to cause displacement. More than 32 million people fled their homes last year because of disasters such as floods, storms, and earthquakes. 98% of displacement is related to climate change. Asia and West and Central Africa are going to be impacted the most, but that doesn't mean we won't feel the effects locally. Hurricanes and flooding are a few forms of natural disasters that can cause people to be displaced. On the other hand, due to the lack of sustainability, loss of water storage sources such as glaciers have caused droughts to become more frequent and last longer than they have in all history. This causes people to migrate into different countries, causing conflict. In the low-lying Marshall Islands and Kiribati, rising sea levels have made every single high tide a dangerous event. Regular floods wash through villages, causing damage to houses, killing their crops, and poisoning drinking water. The current solution to this problem is displacement to the mainland countries. Here in Maine, we can't always feel or see destruction caused by climate change. However, we do live on the coast. Nothing is to determine if parts of our coast will even be here in 100 years. The increased temperature causing sea level rise will impact us too. Now back to you, Newsroom.
Thank you, Gail. One of our reporters had the chance to catch up with a climate change refugee from the Marshall Islands. When asked about his transition to life in the United States, he had this to say.
When we left our homeland, it felt like we were losing our history. But it is nice that we have a place to stay, and I am happy to be close to my neighbors again. Because there is a few thousand of us, we can still keep some of our traditions alive. But the landscape is so different and strange to us. We don't have hills in our country. My people are navigators and craftsmen. Here, we cannot do this. We miss many of our old traditions. The culture here is very different, and we do not live by the sea anymore. Much of our heritage is lost, and soon our language will be lost too. It confuses and saddens me to know that so many of you refuse to see that climate change is happening. Please stop ignoring the signs that no other countries won't suffer the same fate as mine.
Thank you for putting that in perspective for us. Now, joining us tonight to give us some more insight is the president of an island nation of Kiribati. Located in the Pacific Ocean, his country is comprised of 500,000 people. Thank you for being here, Mr. President. Can you explain what threats climate change has to your country geographically?
We are severely threatened by the rise of sea levels, which are eating away at our country, and in a few decades, our country could totally disappear. Our land is rarely a few feet above sea level, so the projected rise of 1 to 2 feet, even with proposals countries have made to cut carbon emissions, will be detrimental to us. Other effects that are significantly worrisome include increased intense storms such as hurricanes, water scarcity, and decreased productivity of agriculture.
As a result of being threatened with displacement from your island nation, how do you see your country being impacted economically, politically, and culturally?
Climate change threatens our economic stability because the natural resources we depend on are in danger along with our infrastructure. From the political standpoint, it is not easy to get other countries on board with climate change. For example, Australia has continued its coal mining, which only stimulates more use of fossil fuels. Honestly, It is a global issue in which all nations should be concerned, and the ones contributing the most should own up to it and do something about it.
I understand you have collaborated and negotiated with other countries concerning the displacement of your country. What plans are currently being developed?
Yes, I have currently worked with other island nations such as Fiji, Tuvalu, and Tokelau. We wanted to propose an international body to be in charge and oversee migration due to the displacement that will occur in our countries. The idea was originally drafted in the United Nations Agreement about what should be negotiated in Paris, but was unfortunately dropped out of this discussion last week. Our nation specifically is planning for the migration with dignity. This means I advise that our people do not wait to flee as refugees. In order to achieve this migration, my country has purchased land in Fiji, which we are currently using to grow food, and this land could provide land for some of our nation's people. I hope to purchase land in Australia or New Zealand, which will cost millions of dollars, but be much cheaper than building up our lands, which would cost billions of dollars.
Thank you for your time with us today, Mr. President. Coming away from this newscast, our nation has a lot to think about.
We need to help and support each other through the tough times ahead, whether that's doing something as simple as donating food to countries that are struggling to provide their own livestock, or opening up our country's doors to refugees. That's all we have time for, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Join us tomorrow for another exciting World News Report. This is Paula Ricecap.
And I'm Stormy Weathers, signing off. Have a good night.